Hi, I'm Yasmin Owusu, and this is my producer, Charlie Kesenek.
But I'm your husband, and you're using all my stuff right now. What are you talking about?
So anyway, I've been looking for a one-stop shop podcast for wellness, amateur sociology, psychology, pop culture, and whatever else sparks my interest. So I created one. We are limited to no lanes. We hit the gas and get into it. This is Peaked. Press play.
Hi, welcome to Peaked Podcast. I'm Yasmin, your host, and we're back for another week of Peaked. I'm doing pretty good today. I hope you are as well. I'm flying solo. I'm having like a quiet solo day along with doing a solo podcast. Husband producer Charlie is in Fredericksburg, Texas, doing a gig or playing a gig, whatever the kids are saying these days. So it's just me and my dear, sweet, only child, love of life, Sly, my dog. It's not as cozy as it sounds, though, because Sly has rolled in something dead, something heinous, something diabolical. I think, if me and Charlie have kind of zeroed in on the fact that we think it was this dead deer that we saw buzzards, vultures flying around. And then he kind of dipped out for a second, then came back way too happy. And then a little bit later, when we were in the car, we're like, what's that smell? And then it's just progressively gotten worse. That was yesterday. And this smell has gotten worse, and we've tried to bathe him in many different ways. We've used our shampoos, his, baking soda. I mean, anything that we think would not ruin his skin or just make him unwell in some way, we have attempted. And it is maybe getting stronger. The smell, I think that smells carry in moisture. And it just went ahead and rained today. Super El Nino. What do you know? It's just raining a whole lot for this time of year in Austin. So it was also impossible for me to let him out and to shake and roll around on hot concrete, which is his favorite way to dry off. Obviously I did my best with towels, but he's just unhappily, mopily, licking himself and still stinking to high heaven. So as much as it's been a stay home, be cozy, watch movies day, it's also while this smell persists. And, while I would love any advice anyone might have for the next time, I'm sure we'll just keep bathing him this time because, I'm doing this on Friday and this airs. Oh, happy Juneteenth, by the way, for those of you who celebrate. So I'm recording this on Friday. So by the time it airs on Tuesday, one would hope he no longer smells this way. But for the next time, I'm down for any suggestions, but not the weird ones people give you where it's something unhygienic or smelly is going on. And they're like, what you got to do is you got to cover him in onions, throw vinegar on top of that. And then, get some kimchi and really rub it in his eyes. I don't understand why the remedies for things that feel gross are always gross. I don't want more gross. So if you have a remedy like that, please keep it to yourself. Remember when it was with lice or cover your hair in mayo? I'm now I got lice and mayo. Anyway, let's just leave that there and let's go on to more joyful things. FIFA fever has arrived statewide. Among other places. It's FIFA fever is, the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup that happens every 4 years of soccer, football for the rest of the world, soccer for here because we have our own football that is mostly not played with your feet, moving swiftly along. But it has arrived. So it is in Canada, Mexico too. So it's in the Americas. Not just in the United States. And, I'm in Texas and I believe there are some games in Houston and Dallas, but not in Austin particularly. And maybe there is some activity around here, but I wouldn't know because I'm really not, I'm not for these streets lately. I'm not Amanda Batuglia. West has not been showing me the streets. I've been largely just hanging out by myself or with my fragrant dog. But I have been really enjoying the vibes of it. Just looking at, videos on TikTok or Instagram, just of everyone really just enjoying themselves and, different cultures really bonding and just having fun together. And I've just really loved seeing American hospitality and Mexican hospitality come to the front. A little less Canadian, I got to tell you. I'm not seeing so much on the Canucks. For all the shit that everyone likes to talk about the United States, for all the times they say when you go abroad, pretend you're Canadian because people like Canadians. I don't know. You're not getting a very good rap right now. I have also, seen a lot of this dialogue of oh, people, we're not who people think we are, blah, 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 because of our political climate, I think that there's a lot of, very understandable hostility towards this country. Important reminder, most of the cities that are hosting these, and I'm saying cities, not states, right? Because Texas is a red state, but, Houston is a very diverse and generally not red city. So a lot of these cities that are hosting these FIFA events are not, in fact, red cities. So if you're thinking that, it's going to be like a MAGA wasteland, probably not. It's really questionable that we got the World Cup, but it turns out we really needed it. I have my own kind of secret and close to my heart patriotism that it's been through some tests in the last few years, and it's been really nice to have the rest of the world remind me what I love about this place. Just how expansive it can feel when it's not behaving the way that it currently is. There's a mosquito buzzing around. So that has been really heartwarming. And it's also just been really lovely to see, Koreans dancing around with Mexicans and just like humans being human in their best form and in a celebratory way. It has been really funny to me. I'm gonna just engage in a very American pursuit of centering yourself in everything. But as someone who's peripherally Bostonian, my mom is born and raised in Boston, and my uncle, and so my sisters are kind of from there, even though a lot of the time they were in Arizona. But whatever, my grandparents also, and their grandparents were in Boston, so I have a lot of history with Boston, and I've gone to visit there a bunch. Anyway, I didn't grow up there, is the short thing. So even though I have this affiliation with Boston, I did not grow up there. I grew up with my dad, moving around with the UN. But, my husband, producer Charlie, he is also from Boston. So we have that Boston thing. So it's been really kind of funny watching the Scottish who are there for their game just whoop it up in Boston. And it's doubly funny for me to just see how people are acting so beguiled and excited about it. I understand that Boston is mostly Irish, if we're going to talk about, what area of that part of Europe is more in Boston. It's Irish people, but are we really acting as though that this FIFA fever looks really that different from if there was a Red Sox game on a Friday night in Boston? I don't know. This looks very familiar to me. This scene does not look off-brand to me for Boston. I mean, there could be some guy wearing a skirt because he traded clothes with the bartender, not because it's a kilt, but I don't know. This does not look like uncharted territory to me. I mean, the crazy, Boston Irish behave exactly this way. I'm sure they've scattered the town in cones for less. But anyway, it's a Scottish right now. And, I did see some Scottish guy being like, what is the fascination with us as Scottish people? I'm I got to tell you, I don't know. It feels very close to home to me. If I just turned on the TV and just saw the goings on, I'd be like, oh, I don't know. Is there a Bruins game that just let out? I would not know the difference. The shenanigans are absolutely identical to what normally Boston Irish people are doing. Moving on, but that is very funny. And I've just really loved it. It's all been really heartwarming. And like I said, it's just, we needed this. We as Americans needed this. I think the world, we all have our problems and everybody kind of needed to cut loose here. And, if you can say anything for our country is that it historically, has had this not stuck fixedness. There is a feeling of expansiveness here, because while in other places, especially old, European countries that have been around for hundreds of thousands of years or whatever, there is this fixed classness. And other than the 1%, which unfortunately is very fixed and very nefarious in this country, right below that, it's a free for all, everyone can scrape their way to somewhere. And I think that expansiveness is just felt. You feel it is this land of the free. I don't know. I'm going to turn into an eagle right now. I swear to God, I have not felt this patriotic in a long time. But I'm trying to get back there. And this is really helping. FIFA fever is helping me a whole lot. So I'm proud of us. I'm proud of our hospitality, and I'm loving this little sleepover we're having with the world, and may it never end. And I'm going to center myself again in a different way. My dad, RIP, was from Ghana. So I'm half Ghanian. and very much grew up with that culture. So I did watch the Ghana versus Panama game, and we managed to score in the last minute. Like that game was diabolical. I mean, I wouldn't say that Panama got a whole lot of looks, to tell you the truth, but the way that we flubbed, like Ghana flubbed so many goal attempts. I mean, there was a point where I swear to God, our striker, or like whoever was about to score the goal, was behind the goalie inside of the goal and still missed. Like, I was like, well, what is happening? If they're trying to say that we have like witchcraft, we're not doing it very well. But we eventually did pull out a goal in the very last minute in extra time, and thank frick. And we're playing England next, which is going to be, I don't know, it might be a point of contention for certain family members of mine. My dad is the only one in his family, the only one in his immediate family who emigrated to the United States, or immigrated. And the rest of them, like his sisters, he only has sisters. They all moved to the UK. So all my aunts, his sisters, and, my cousins from those aunts, they're all from the UK. So I grew up going there a bunch too. I'm centering myself. As an American, I'm hosting it. As a Ghanaian, I want a game. As someone who grew up going to the UK a bunch, I have my family there. But they're going to have to pick sides because, England is playing Ghana next. And we're going to see who the real Pan-Africans are when it comes down to it. And we're also probably going to see two teams, the Ghanaian team and the UK team. There's probably going to be players that are from Ghana, because there's a huge Ghanaian population in the UK. There's a huge immigrant population of Ghanaians. I mean, hence my family. So I'm sure there are going to be some Ghanaian last names on that team, and they're going to be looking at each other like, twin, where have you been? And how do you choose which you're going to do? There's at one point, there were these Boateng brothers, like, I think one of them, I almost want to say his name was like Freddie Prince, but that sounds crazy because Freddie Prince Jr. But there were these two Boateng brothers that were half German and half Ghanaian. And for a while, one was playing in the World Cup on the German team and the other was playing for Ghana, which was like a whole thing. So we gonna see. We gonna see who's really loyal to the culture in my family. And I will call them out on this podcast. Anyway, I think I've centered myself about as much as I can. And I will continue to do so as the weeks go on. But yeah, we're letting that go for now. And I did see also a video of, well, I guess I'm not letting it go for now. I saw a video of Dave Portnoy because he's a Boston guy, right? So he was talking to a bunch of the Scottish, players, or not players, the Scottish fans. And like, they're very much like, they know him and they're like, oh, you're the pizza review guy, blah, blah, whatever. He couldn't understand a word they were saying. But he also was talking about how he's getting caught up in the FIFA fever. And it makes me laugh because like here we are on the same boat where it's like this hole that Batuglia once filled in our brains is now being filled with FIFA. It's like we have a Batuglia-sized like vacancy in our brains that has to be filled with something because, Tea by the Sea is over. But I will say before I put the Batuglia drama in the ground and cover it in dirt, as Sierra famously said, I will say I did watch the bonus episode. I didn't do an episode, as you know, about part 3. I thought, I'm beating the dead horse. And then, the bonus episode, I also was like, I just think I'm ready to taper in terms of this supposed scandal. But I will just give a last kind of thing on that whole thing, which is, let's talk about all the conversations separately. Excuse me. For conversation number 1, this is Summerhouse, by the way, if you're not catching that. The first conversation was Amanda Batula and Lindsay Hubbard. And I will say that one, it was satisfying in that Lindsay asked the hard questions and kind of pinned this girl to the wall. And I do think what was important that came out of it to me is to reiterate that most of what motivates Amanda is male acceptance and pick-me behavior, right? So when Lindsay was like, you do have love, she's like, not from a man, right? And when she talks about how she got involved with West in the first place, it was like, he liked me, I got picked, right? Not like, oh, I was feeling like, she was like, he just said he liked me, then all these feelings flooded in. I'm like, those feelings are feelings of you getting picked. And as a pick-me, that is like your lifeblood. It's like a video game when you like get that, like, you get that life and it just like trickles into you and it's like, and you're back, right? That's you with a male validation. So she kind of just told us who she was there, and that's fine and that's satisfying. And I don't believe much of anything else she says, and I don't care. Then we move on to Kyle and West, and nothing. We can just move straight on from there. I mean, West is just going to talk in circles. Kyle's just going to, I don't know. What is he doing? I wonder if Kyle has so little feeling left for Amanda that he's just actually really happy that he gets the good edit in this. And that's why he's being so kind and allowing. I mean, I know a lot of people want to be like, he's just being a stand-up guy. But listen, I enjoy Kyle on the show, but I don't know that that is on brand for him, is to be reasonable and really measured in how he deals with things. I don't know that I've seen that. I feel like maybe this is a guy that was in a loveless marriage and felt like the whole thing was really over with and like was very frustrated and was acting out and felt very attacked in this season. And when he realized that like he gets to get out of this marriage, he gets to have a clean house again. And he also gets to not be villainized, or not villainized. I mean, he did all the stuff we're accusing him of, right? But I mean, he gets everyone to forget about his villain arc, and someone else basically did something bad enough to take over the villain title. So maybe he's just like win-win. And so he's just not really trying to go hard right now. But yeah, it just felt like a waste of time. And I know he had a lot to say after the fact, but he didn't really say a whole lot that was very satisfying to me, to West. So we can move on for that too. And then we get to the last one, which is going to be Meha and Sierra. And I would say that was the most, like, wish I could unsee it. It was just, I don't know, it's just piss poor to me. I really did not like seeing Sierra in that light where it's just like, cheers to us, the side chicks and like, whatever. They're just kind of like comparing notes on like this guy, and like it's still so centered around him. And like I know that's what the assignment is, but I don't even blame Sierra for it. It's like she's doing what she has to do. It's her job, but I just don't like seeing her in that space. I like to see her in the space of like hosting things and winning, and like I think constantly dragging her. And like, by the way, the bird space of Meha, who's still hoping that this guy calls and is talking to him for 6 hours at a time and like letting him like write her dumb things like you win. Like, I mean, humiliating her all over town, not taking her to this wedding, taking Amanda, and still like being a pick-me for him too. I mean, he sure knows how to find them. But I want Sierra to be free of that narrative. And I don't want her getting dragged into this like Meha, oh, we're both like birds on the side thing. So I don't love this matchup. And I don't know if they're trying to like segue that into being like, what Summerhouse's future is like this Meha person's going to be there. I don't know, but I hope not, because I just don't like the vibes. I don't like the vibes of this woman in general. I mean, obviously we haven't seen much, but I felt like there was even just a little bit of a like kiki competition. Anyway, let's throw the dirt on that coffin. I mean, it's like thrice and 10 times dead to me at this point. And I think we're all just a little fatigued of it. I think we all have a little bit of a Batuglia hangover. And I'm really happy and willing to replace it with my fever of FIFA. From a hangover to a fever. FIFA. And then I want to move on to another annoying entity named Emrata. And so, she's done some writing in the past, which I have not particularly enjoyed. I do know that she is, I'm sorry, I have microphone problems at all times. I do know that she is a friend of Lena Dunham's, and I do think Lena Dunham is a prolific writer and a good one. I mean, sometimes her lens can be a little bit irritating or cloying to me, but I think overall she has a talent. And I think that I find that Em-Rata does try to emulate her when she writes. Like, I haven't read an entire book of hers, but I've certainly read articles she's written. And recently she wrote an article in The Cut, which was about dating after her divorce. And it felt, again, in that same vein of like, her books and her other articles about, her body and being kind of a figure that's really commoditized for her looks and objectivized in many ways. And like, I can agree that absolutely she is. She's a beautiful woman, and her career has centered around that a lot. And I do think she's probably experienced some pretty awful things. And but in this article, she was more talking about her own active decision after her divorce to date a little bit more in a fun, loose, unattached way, which I can, fully support. Like, she was still so young when she got married and divorced, so she's still pretty young now. She has one kid though, so there's that. And not that should stop you from dating. But so this article is very much just her recounting. At first, she's talking about a specific guy that she's dating that she calls elder millennial, and I take I take umbrage with that as an elder millennial myself, because she definitely uses it in like a derogatory way. And I would say that elder millennials, if anything, we deal with getting dragged into like the cringe shit that younger Harry Potter millennials were getting into. Like all that cadence stuff and that like in very stinking, like that is a younger millennial than me. And believe me, my Gen X cousins would have beat the fuck out of me for that kind of behavior. So absolutely, we were not allowed to have that kind of thing. We have our own issues. I mean, maybe it's socks, maybe it's accepting, toxicity from bosses. I mean, there's lots of things we could say that elder millennials have done poorly. But I think a lot of that is sort of cringe and kind of culture that, cutesy stuff, doggo, that is not an elder millennial thing. That was younger, and I was way too old watching that to get on board with it. Like, I've never used doggo in earnest. I've never said, but anyway, I'm going on a tangent. But anyway, I took that so personally, didn't I? That's very elder millennial of you, just being touchy about everything. Boomers really fucked up our heads, as did Gen X. But she calls this guy elder millennial, and she dated him. And from context cues, I'm kind of wondering if it's not Eric Andre, allegedly. I mean, I can't be sure, right? I mean, she was rumored to have dated Pete Davidson for a minute. I think he was a little bit younger than me, though. He was kind of in the comedy scene when I was dating a comedian in New York City, and I would see him at open mics and stuff, like shitty open mics. But I had the impression he was younger than me. I mean, even the guy that I was dating was 4 years younger than me, and I feel like Pete was even younger than him. So I feel like, I don't know, he wouldn't be an elder millennial. So I don't know. I think it's Eric Andre. Like, if I were to guess, if it is someone prominent, and she said that when she was on this date with him, he said something about like his career had stalled in LA, and so he was kind of like coming to New York to like, just kind of do his own thing or whatever. So career stalled, that sounds like maybe a more creative career. I mean, you wouldn't be like, oh, my lawyer career stalled, so I'm in New York. You know what I mean? So I do think it's an entertainer. And I do remember there were some photos, some kind of like sexual photos of her with Eric Andre. So I'm just going to say it's him, allegedly. And she does not paint him in a very good light in this, whoever this gentleman is. I mean, she makes fun of his hoodies, and I mean, she really did not like the bar he took her to. The amount of digs that she takes at his bar choice is actually, it becomes comical as it unfolds. I mean, at first I'm just kind of like, that's a funny quip. Like, I can get on board with that. She's like, oh, it's like, the kind of place like a guy who doesn't know anything about New York and who is a new transplant would take you to, thinking like he's being edgy. But then she just keeps like being like, oh, I'm going to have to pick up a phone. And like, he's talking about Criff Dog in New York City, where it's like a fake speakeasy that everybody knows. You have to like pick up this phone and then, whatever. And then she just keeps talking. It's like, whatever this fucking place is. But like, she will not let up on it being a lame choice of a bar. Like, she was so mad to be there. And it just like, the longer it goes on throughout the story, the funnier it gets to me. All of this to say, and she makes some other references about, dating in general. Like, she was like, I didn't have a high body count before. And like, I just was like, I need to like kind of break down this innocence of mine, which sounds really similar to something that I do remember Lena Dunham saying, like that she was doing things for the plot and like all adventurous girls do. And I feel like she has a lot of verbiage that feels really kind of a little bitten from Lena's style and Lena's like ethos in a way. So I don't know, it was a little sus to me. But overall, I think my impression of Em-Rata and how she chooses to write is, I think that she wants to lean into and be or be seen as someone who's more radical and is calling out the patriarchy. But I think she wants to do that while courting and consistently considering the male gaze at all times. So while she is talking about trying to decenter men, while she is talking about trying to break her brain of like, centering men and being pick me to them and pleasing to them and like, wanting to be more powerful, she's doing it with this language around it that constantly performs for the male gaze. Like at one point she's talking about giving birth and she's like, I came in there moans that sounded more like sex than giving birth. I'm like, I guess it depends on how your brain works, but I certainly wouldn't like be adding, sexual connotations to, childbirth personally. Like that wouldn't be for me. And I just noticed there was a lot of that kind of like hypersexual language, even when she wasn't talking about sexual stuff. And I think that there is part of her that can't stop wanting to be objectified, even as she's talking about, I can't stop wanting to be objectified, which is kind of the thesis statement of this article. She's still doing it in this article. Like it's almost like, it's like so meta. It's like a freaking turducken. It's like a Russian doll of, patriarchal, whatever, imaging and male gaze. And I understand that can be really hard to like parse out and like figure out and extract yourself from. But I honestly find it really exhausting to watch her try, and I never enjoy it. And I think there are a lot of us that are further along in that journey that feel that way, where it's like, make it stop. I think get the therapy, get the good therapist if you don't have one already. Really do the work behind the scenes. Do it, yourself introspectively. And when you have a healed enough perspective to have something to say to other people, then maybe take it to the streets. But I think until then, this is some you work and you need to do it. So I'll leave that there. But speaking of work that people need to do, I did see that there was a teaser for Stassi's new show. Stassi Schroeder from Vanderpump Rules fame got a show on Hulu called House of Stassi, and it's going to feature Katie Maloney, who is on Vanderpump Rules, and also someone who's famous for being a radio personality and host in their own right, and also her friend, Taylor Strecker. It's going to have Christina Kelly, who is a real favorite of mine on Vanderpump Rules when she popped up here and there, which, she wasn't on often, but I always enjoyed her when she was. I know not everyone feels that way, but I just really loved her like deadpanness, and I think a lot of people miss it. She's funnier than people give her credit for. Anyway, so Christina Kelly's going to be on it, and Katie. And we saw a lot of us saw, there was a teaser of it, and it just shows basically, I guess Stassi and Katie over the years had grown distant, and like there had been a bit of a fracture in their relationship, which we don't really know what to attribute it to yet. And I think they're kind of teasing it for the season. So we'll find out. But it does show Katie essentially kind of coming at Stassi, being like, yeah, if you're not on your payroll, or, we didn't come out of you, she's referencing if you're not her child, then we don't get to be in your life, and your world just gets smaller and smaller. And then it kind of cuts to Stassi in a talking head being like, and this is why I want her on the show. I need to not have yes people around me, which is funny. It's because that's what she's being accused of, only having yes people around her, which is funny. Very similar to Lala, who it does seem like her friend group and everyone she's around all the time are people who live with her. She kind of helps them, pays for her life. Interesting. I will say, I am not, I would hope it would be obvious. I have not always been the biggest fan of Stassi's. I loved her as a breakout star in Vanderpump Rules. I really enjoyed her. I enjoyed her podcast at first. But, if in case anyone's forgotten why she got canceled, at one point, I can remind you, it's not like I'm trying to dredge all this up. I have no interest in making her re-canceled. But if anyone's forgotten, she had made some comments about a former castmate of hers, Faith Stowers, I want to say is her name, is Stowers, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, who is a Black woman. She had basically said that she saw footage of this woman in some kind of conjunction with robbing men at bars or something like that. And she was like, oh, it's definitely her. And she was suggesting that they contact the police to report her because they're absolutely sure that this grainy footage of some random Black woman was in fact Faith Stower's, which it wasn't. And either way, if you're not sure of a thing like that, threatening to call the police and genuinely trying to contact the police to report her was absolutely insane. So that was an issue and rightfully so. And then she also made some comments about how Black people are always whining at the Oscars that they don't win things. And I think her comments also, she was like, what is it? Why is it never Native Americans? Why is it never Asians? And I'm like, girl, because they don't get nominated. They don't. I mean, it's even worse for them. That's why. Like, if you're wondering why it's always Black people at the podium, like complaining, it's because like they actually are far enough along in their fight for equality that they win sometimes. And I would love for Asian people to get nominated and win more, Native American people to get nominated and win more so they can get on that podium and whine too. And you can deal with it. Okay. But, you know, she did go through her whole redemption arc where she got some sensitivity training, I guess, and like apologized a bunch. And I wanted to take that in good faith. But, you know, as someone who had enjoyed her podcast in the past, I did listen to her, if it was not on her own podcast, after she made these apologies, after she did this work, after she really was like trying to be contrite and being like, I really didn't know what I was talking about. I was uneducated, blah, blah, blah. I did see her on a podcast, and I don't remember who it was with, where the person that she was speaking to kind of gave her an out of being like, oh, but girl, you know, it's so hard. You feel like you can't even be yourself or say what you want to say anymore. And that was Stassi's opportunity to say, no, it's absolutely true that like there may be some people who get censored and like, you know, free speech might be not what it used to be. But in my case, the things I said really were ignorant and they really were unacceptable. And I've apologized to them and I mean it. But instead, she said something along the lines of like, yeah, I kind of am scared. I don't want to say anything anymore. She doubled down in a way. And that was really disappointing. And to me, that was when I was like, okay, I don't know how deep this change really is. Granted, that was years ago. So who knows? Maybe she has really learned something at this point. Couldn't tell you. I stopped listening to her stuff then. And it's interesting that she said people can't like this other white woman she was talking to. I don't remember which podcaster it was. It was one of her friends was saying, oh, you can't say things. And like, I feel bad that you feel like you can't like just, you know, be yourself and just like speak naturally. She made those comments about faith on the Bitch Bible, a podcast that I really enjoy. And this is not me calling out Jackie Schimmel for that, because I actually think that Jackie Schimmel has not done anything wrong. She had her friend on that podcast and her friend said some shit she did not expect her to say. And I think like a lot of us, she was just kind of like, eh. And she did not agree with it. She just kind of like let it happen as one does. And I think after the fact was probably horrified. Either way, that podcaster, Jackie Schimmel, I'm a fan of, and she lets it rip. I mean, this girl says all kinds of things. I mean, she says all kinds of crazy, nutty things, and at the same time doesn't get canceled because she doesn't say racist things. She doesn't say horribly racist, racially insensitive, and, you know, highly cancelable things. You know, so it's like you can't say anything. I mean, it's really ironic that you're on the podcast of someone who like just talks absolutely unfiltered shit and doesn't have an issue because she just somehow manages not to be racist. I don't know. Think about it. With all that, I said all of that to also say, while not being the hugest Stassi fan, I think if you are someone who's watched Vanderpump Rules, maybe you could agree that there's a bit of a gap to me in how people process Stassi's friendships with the people on Vanderpump Rules. And maybe her relationships in general, like with Katie Maloney, right? I think the edit on that, like how that all has been absorbed by the fandom or like, you know, Bravo viewers is that, you know, she was really mean to Katie and Katie let her back in her life. And now she's like, you know, being Stassi again and being selfish. I don't know why we're forgetting that when Stassi was dealing with all that stuff with Jax, when Jax had cheated, this is like season 1. Second one, when we find out that Stassi, that Jax has cheated in Vegas, that he, you know, has opened himself up to maybe an STD and like whatever, you know, has gotten someone pregnant. And Stassi finds all of this out. All her friends go about gaslighting her into being like, don't mess with the group. And like, we should all be able to travel together. And I don't like, if you're going to be like this with Jax and my boyfriend's friend, they did not support her whatsoever. It's the point where she had to get some B team of randos to film with her that season. And I feel like it was never brought up again. After that, when all her friends betrayed her and ditched her on the side of the road to support her boyfriend, who is like an actual psychopathic maniac, we're all supposed to forget that, and then, there was the whole thing where Katie decided to go on a trip with Sheena. And now we know, the fourth wall having been broken, that Sheena had been showing Stassi's sex tape all over town. Katie knows this, and Katie still goes to Mexico with Sheena. It's just like these things are kind of forgotten. We're all just kind of like, Stassi's always been a bad friend. I don't really see it that way, dude. I think these people have been massively disloyal. And yeah, I've had my thoughts about Beau with that stuff too. I really never thought that it was particularly impressive or okay the way that Beau had to hang out late night all the time with these friends of hers who had been so shady and so weird. I mean, you have like Kristen Doty, who fucked Stassi's boyfriend. And then you have like Jax, who was that boyfriend, the Kristen Doty fucked. And then you have, all the Sheenas of the world or whatever, all these people who've been so massively traumatizing to her. And he just really feels the need to hang out late night with them. And he gets this edit as just being like this good guy who deals with her dark passenger. I don't know that her dark passenger would have hung out so long if you didn't hang out with all the people who have hurt her the most in life. So if I can say all of this, by the way, while totally thinking the entire canceling of Stassi when it happened was justified, I think a lot more of us can too. And I have a feeling that's not going to be in the conversation with Katie and Stassi too, where it's like, girl, I understand that you might think that she's never available, but when you really show break a trust with somebody, it's not like you just get it back whenever you want. There's always going to be that kind of I don't know, guardedness and arm's length. And I do think that she has reasons for feeling that way. And then, there's some friendships that you've fostered with, other people that have been hurtful to her that, when they ended up being bad for you, like a Sheena or whatever, then you severed them. But when it was just that they had done hurtful things to Stassi, you didn't feel the need then. So either way, just know that I will be seated to watch that show. And I would really like to see how that conversation goes down. But if I know Stassi, she's just going to cop to everything and say it was all her, because that's what she does with Beau. And that's what she's done with these people in the past when she had to go to a reunion and basically eat crow and crawl back on her knees and be like, it was all me. Yeah, I wore a statement necklace and I was a bitch. And I'm like, I really don't see it that way. And I really hope at some point there's a little bit of justice for Vanderpump Rules Stassi. Maybe Life Stassi needs to understand more about social justice in general, but Vanderpump Rules character Stassi, justice for her. Anyway, I'm excited about that. And that's about it for this week. I think it might be a time where I can mix in a treat and a little play with an RC car to get another bath for Sly before I have to cuddle up to him with whatever disgusting dead smell is permeating from the other room. So I'll deal with that. And, whatever may be going on in your life, whether it's, FIFA fever, Scotland, Scottish people putting cones all over your streets, be careful out there. Until next time.